The next posture is Supta Konasana. So it's sort of an extension of the posture before, Upavishta Konasana, but we sort of change the orientation of the straddle and add up some rolling up. So after Upavishta Konasana, where you lift up and hold the lift up for 5 breaths, you take a vinyasa. So it's like you're starting a whole other posture. So from downward facing dog, you jump through to seated with straight legs. Exhale, lie down on your back. And then we're gonna bring the legs over the head, spread the feet like halasana, but the feet spread, and you're gonna catch the big toes. When I'm here, I like to shrug my shoulders back a little bit so I have a really supportive shelf at the top of the back of my shoulders to hold this. And here you wanna straighten the spine as much as possible. So you can think about lifting the sit bones up towards the ceiling. So I've tilted the pelvis a little bit here so that I can have a straighter spine. So I'm just going from this like rounded back, and I think about moving my sit bones towards the front of the mat, and that helps me to straighten the spine. And my feet are flexed, the legs are strong, and we're holding this for 5 breaths. And now to roll out of it, I like to think about kind of softening this a little bit. So going back into that rounded position where the sit bones move towards the heels. So you round the back. That'll help soften this rolling part. And then you get to a certain part where you can reach through the base of the big toes. That'll help send the energy that way to help you lift up from this rolling up position. So reach to the base of the big toes. So it's kind of like your feet are lifting you up. And then you're holding onto the feet. So that kind of creates a ripple effect all the way through the torso to lift the torso. And at the same time as you do that, you also kind of like pop the heart. So you kind of pop the chest. So you go from this like rounded position to roll, to begin the rolling up process, and to also soften the surface on the back so you're not rolling on a straight back because that can get kind of clunky. So you kind of soften it, round the back, roll up the spine, reach to the base of the big toes, and lift the heart. And it kind of becomes a timing thing, so you need to kind of sort that out yourself and just try it a few times to figure out the timing for when you go from that rounded back to that open heart. And when you activate the feet in a way that will facilitate you finishing the coming up part. So I'm gonna do it again, and I'm gonna try to go as slow as possible because another thing that's super helpful with this is momentum. So getting a little bit of momentum to help you come up all the way while keeping the legs straight. That's what makes this difficult coming up, is keep holding onto the toes and keeping the legs straight. So you need a little bit more of like refined technique in order to keep the legs straight. So I'm gonna try to slow it down without momentum. Let's see if it works out. So you're here, 5 breaths. And then you can think about exhaling, maybe pushing more into the base of the toes to kind of push yourself off. And on the inhale, roll the spine, flex the feet, reach to the big toes, and lift the heart. So I even go through a moment of flexing the feet and then reaching the toes up, because that reaching the toes up sort of like pulls me forward. And that's also going to be helpful in the next postures, not the next posture, but the last two, the postures where we roll up from halasana position with the legs together. More on that later. And then once you get to the top, you just hold it for a moment because you roll up on the inhale, and then as you exhale, you land softly and come all the way down or as close as you can. And then inhale, exhale fully, and then from here you take a vinyasa to move into the next posture. So one quick note about that landing. You need to sort of like counteract the way down so that you don't like plop onto your heels or onto your calves. So one easy thing to do so that you don't like land on the heels is to flex the feet a lot. Because if you point the feet, then that's when I don't even want to show you, because then that's when you land on your heels and it doesn't feel good. But if you flex the feet, then you can lift the heels away from the floor so you don't slam down onto your heels. It's because that part of the heel is super bony and it's just not going to feel good. And then the other thing you can do is just like kind of resist the way down by keeping the heart up and then just take the heart down once the legs touch. But while the legs are coming down, before they touch the floor, kind of resist that downward moving by keeping the heart lifted so that you can kind of slow down. If you just kind of like surrender and fall all the way, might be like not so graceful, and you'll just kind of slam down onto the floor. So try to like resist that a little bit to slow it down and just make it a little bit more of a pleasant experience. So I think that's all there is to say about the full expression of the posture. And then of course, you can still work with this form even if maybe the legs aren't straight. So it takes a lot of flexibility in the hips and the hamstrings to move through this whole posture, keeping the legs straight. And it also makes the rolling up part a little bit more challenging. So what you can do is just bend the knees here, roll up with the knees bent, and then when you come down, you can kind of maybe just bring the heels down and straighten them as much as possible and come down. You can do that. You can also do it with the legs straight and maybe grab onto the lower part of the leg. I don't know if that makes it easier, but you can try. If maybe you feel like you're getting stuck coming up, holding onto the feet, sometimes that can feel a little bit like you can feel like you get stuck a little bit there. So maybe just try changing the grip a little bit lower and see if you can figure out the dynamic with the arms there and then switch over to the big toes. That's another option. And if you have anything going on with the neck, then maybe you don't want to go all the way over into the halasana position because that can be a lot on the neck, especially if you're not like really drawing the shoulders down the back. So you could also just do this from here with the hips on the floor. And then coming up is going to be really hard because you won't have as much space to gain the momentum. But, be creative. Figure out a way to approximate this very dynamic posture in a way that works for you, where you're still getting that moment of having the legs over your head and that moment of kind of rocking up and that moment of coming back down into Upavishta Konasana. All right, good luck, and I'll see you in the next video.